What is up, gamers? It's absurd here, and I am so overwhelmed by the amount of content we just got in the Armored Core 6 gameplay preview. Even more overwhelming is how awesome it looks and how amazing the creators are who got access to the demo gameplay, sharing their footage with little guys like me. I am so grateful for the generosity of VaatiVidya and FightinCowboy. Without them, I wouldn't be able to deliver this video to you as I intended. I want to preface this video by saying if you don't want spoilers for the Armored Core 6 story, you should click away now. Because while I speculate some, most of the material I cover here is actually in the game. If you are still along for the ride, then let's dig into it. First things first, we play as 621 from the story trailer. Walter is our handler and operator, sending us into Rubicon, but on a stealth mission for two reasons. One, the Rubicon natives have a blockade to keep extrastellar interests off their planet. Two, we are not yet a registered mercenary, and for some reason we aren't able to obtain a license legally. Our first objective in the game is to obtain one of these mercenary licenses from a destroyed AC and steal its identity. Many of the ACs we check do not have suitable licenses, and we get a sense of how dangerous this place is as we go from fallen AC to fallen AC, searching for a valid license. These natives mean serious business. Ultimately, we find a license, and there is suspense as Walter is reading it. We are attacked, never hearing the name of our new identity until returning to the garage. This is brilliant storytelling, a major cliffhanger, and then thrown into our first boss fight. I'll save analysis of fights like this for another video. Upon mission success, we get our first view of the garage and are introduced to All Mind, the mercenary administration system, much like Raven's Nest or Global Cortex in older games. All Mind sounds very much like an AI, which, based on the history of Armored Core, could be an important plot point. All Mind greets us as Raven, our new stolen identity. This immediately creates a thematic paradox in which we are working as a dog. The NPCs constantly remind us of this, but under the call sign Raven. This must be the origin of the meaning behind this clip. We are hiding behind another's call sign because we aren't supposed to be here. What's fairly obvious is why the natives don't want us here. They don't want anyone here. But we are still left wondering why we needed to steal an identity in the first place. And on that note, let's go back to the previous licenses that were not valid for a second. Walter says this one is expired and won't work. This implies that our license as Raven may expire eventually as well. Will we end up needing to hop from identity to identity in this story, killing pilots and stealing their licenses to continue working as a mercenary and fool All Mind? I don't think this is likely, since we have clips from the gameplay trailer that refer to us as callsign Raven, but it could be a potential plot point later in the game to go undercover as another pilot, maybe since Raven is being hunted. This talk about identity makes me want to hone in on who is 621. Recent theories have speculated that 621 is a brain in a jar remotely controlling the AC, or that 621's mind was uploaded into the AC. I was never a fan of those theories, and here I think they are proven wrong. This shot of the hub screen shows our AC in a garage, and do you notice the catwalk extending out to the core, where the cockpit is traditionally located? This is set up to facilitate a human being walking out physically to mount into the armored core. Despite the ill state of 621's body in the story trailer, it seems that we recover well enough to climb scaffolds and catwalks to climb out to our AC core. The story trailer also showed us a lot about the nature of our augmentation, but this gameplay tells us a lot more. We fight a pilot named Sula, who refers to C4621 as being 4th gen, while Walter tells us that Sula, also known as C1249, survived 1st gen augmentation. Depending on any age-prolonging effects of augmentation, this means that several generations of augmentation have evolved within a relatively short period of time, and that the earliest generation is possibly more dangerous than what we saw happen to 621, significant enough for Walter to comment on Sula's ability to survive it. Sula's later comments on 619 and 620 from the story trailer omit mentioning 617 and 618. I wonder where they are in all of this. Sula has an obvious history with Walter, but fails to mention these two hounds in his antagonistic monologue. Sula also mentions that 4th gen dogs can be well trained. This word, trained, is interesting because VaatiVidya used it as well when talking about 621 being trained by Walter. The implication is that we are not so much controlled or dominated by Walter as we are trained and perhaps mentally conditioned to an extent. It doesn't seem like there's a strong biological or chemical imperative holding us to him. We seem to have a lot of agency while under Walter, and not a terrible working relationship. In none of the dialogue I saw did he ever berate us or treat us with the toxicity that I expected based on the story trailer. We also get to choose our missions from a list curated by Walter, and seem to get full access to the garage and shop using credits that we have earned. One curious line from Walter, though, is when he mentions on a mission that we'll make a killing, plenty for a merc like you to buy their life back. This gave me strong Human Plus vibes, and possibly answers why we underwent augmentation. In Armored Core 1, going deep into debt would require you to submit yourself for Human Plus augmentation as part of settling that debt. Perhaps 621 was a prior mercenary who accumulated enough debt to be in this situation under Walter, and I was wondering if earning sufficient credits would be enough to free us from his leash. That is, until I noticed something else. Let's talk about Mission 11, Attack the Watch Point. We are hired to assault a watch point used for regulating and monitoring the underwater flow of coral. This is the mission in which we fight Sula, but when we beat him, he says, "Walter, stay away from the watch point." The rapport Sula has with Walter based on this banter made me wonder if this last statement was an honest warning to Walter. Though it's cut out of the gameplay, you can tell here is when we get a cutscene. We get this text, reactivating combat mode, from a new operator named Ire, who also mentions that a massive dose of coral nearly killed us. So it seems that in this cutscene that we don't see, we got to the watchtower and something happened, likely causing a coral explosion or something that gave us a near-fatal dose of coral. And in that time, we lost contact with Walter and gained a new operator. I guess that comment from Sula was a warning. It's impossible to say what specifically went on in the cutscene, and to be honest, I'd rather be surprised by it, but this mission, the final mission in Chapter 1, seems to be where we are liberated from Walter in one way or another, and Ire becomes our new operator. Ire's voice can be heard again as our operator in the previous gameplay footage from SGF and also in the official gameplay trailer. I don't think Walter is coming back from this, at least not as our operator. With the mystery of Walter and 621 sufficiently covered, I want to turn an eye to the other factions on Rubicon. The first NPCs we meet are the RLF, the Rubicon Liberation Front. These guys and gals really seem to hate the corporations. They refer to us as corporate dogs and corporate scum. They also have a very cultish vibe, with various mantras, "Abide with Rubicon," and "Forged in ash, we stand as one." This reminds me of the consumer survey leak that mentioned cultists as one of the factions with interest on Rubicon. Then there's this guy, Index Dunham. He challenges our honor for murking out with the corporations. Very typical of the RLF. But when he dies, he says, "Father Dolmayan, I've failed you." So here we are introduced to a new character. And by his title, Father Dolmayan seems to be a cult leader for the RLF. This cult seems pretty obviously centered around Coral, based on the mantras, and there is further religious allusion to support that. This mission, in which we attack the Strider, a coral mining apparatus, is located in the Bon Dia Dunes. Aside from being another dune reference, this location, Bon Dia, is named after an ancient Roman goddess of fertility and protector of the people, which seems very fitting for the Rubicon Liberation Front. The last thing I want to mention about these guys is that they seem pretty low-tech, and their equipment is repurposed industrial equipment modified for combat, much like what we see with the rad parts in the garage. That's not surprising for a revolutionary force, but I think it's a neat touch. Another faction we seem to butt heads with repeatedly is the PCA. I'm still not sure what PCA stands for, but they seem to specialize in much higher quality tech than the RLF, as they send heavy helicopters to attack us, as well as this unmanned AC model named Balteus, which is the final boss of the demo footage. I wouldn't be surprised if PCA is connected to Allmind and or this supercomputer somehow. Then we have Balaam and their red guns, a faction to which we can now associate these emblems. We fight as allies alongside the red guns, but they don't seem to like us very much. Like Index Dunham, the AC I mentioned earlier, these pilots challenge our honor for being a mercenary and seem to value loyalty to their corporation highly. There also may be a hint of antagonism behind that as well, based on our augmentation, but I didn't notice that explicitly, it's just a feeling. Via the red guns, we learn of the corporate race to climb the wall, which surprisingly is literally a wall. But it also seems to serve as a headquarters or other point of interest for the RLF. Despite the big corporate race, it seems that we are the first to scale the wall. I want to remain surprised by what that means. This is where we finally meet Rusty, from the gameplay trailer, who pilots an AC named Steel Haze. Note Rusty's name here in the text, how it appears with this V and Roman numeral 4. That Roman numeral matches the AC emblem here. And there's another clip with a pilot, Snail, that has the same notation and matches with this emblem here. That's not earth-shattering news, but it's really cool to get more info on these characters and their emblems. Anyway, part of me wonders if I should have not spoiled myself with all of this, and if it will affect my experience playing the game for the first time, which is why I included that spoiler warning at the beginning. But I'm so excited, and this game looks so good, that I don't think anything could tarnish my experience playing it at this point. So I'll just wrap things up here and get to work on the next video. Until next time, gamers, abide with Rubicon.